Hello trainers, welcome to the finals of the Bochum Pokémon TCG Regionals. We are so excited. We have two colossal decks ready for you and two fighting competitors.
Oh, 100%. And who would have thought Gudra making it all the way to the final, knocking out, I should say, some interesting decks in Top Cut. And who would have thought Lugia in the final? Maybe you did think that would happen, but would it be paired with Vikavolt of all things? I'm not 100% sure people would have said that if I told that to you yesterday.
Honestly, I think you're right, and it's a beautiful deck. We featured it before earlier today, and we had a fantastic interview with the deck's pilot. So if you haven't checked that already, make sure you go view it later, but stick around for the finals right now because we are getting ready. Decks are being shuffled. Everything's being triple checked for us because we have got an ecstatic game for you. I think these two decks are really interesting into one another. Yeah,
and let's not forget what's on the line here. Prize money, I think $5,000 US, I believe. And then obviously 250 CP, which is actually your world's invite now if you're here in Europe, thanks to the CP reduction. So all to play for. Both players, you know, just gonna have to try and harness the pressure, just compose themselves and say, right, one more round separates me from being called a regional champion.
Oh, could you imagine that title? Because I can't.
I'll tell you what, I'll be sticking my chest out so much if I was a regional champion. I'm not going to lie to you, folks.
Somebody is going home with that title ever so soon. They're going to be popped straight into the history books.
Exactly that. So let's just take a little second to remind ourselves of our top 8 slot and our finalists here. So we do have Milos there on the top, knocking out Edwin. And then knocking out Christian, because Christian had to actually go home for his flight. And then at the bottom there, we have Hermione knocking out Yuho, and then Sen as well. And it's Hermione piloting that Gudra deck. A deck that we've seen actually start to pick up a little bit of steam recently and doing really well. And didn't you say you have a funny story about Milos here? What is on the line for him outside of just the finals? Because he's hanging around here and is potentially missing something, correct?
He might be missing his flight, he was telling me earlier today. So unfortunately, but maybe fortunately, he could be coming home with that title. Regardless, definitely worth missing a flight for this battle.
Leave it there in the chat. If you were at home, if you was in a regional finals, would you miss your flight intentionally to have your chance of being named a regional champion? I tell you right now, that is an easy decision for me. I'll be like, right, I'll get on the next flight. Don't worry about that one. I want to be a regional champion. Or at least, at the very least part, be considered and be in the final. I'm very excited for this game because on paper, a really interesting matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Gudra is really tanky. But Vikavolt item locks, and it's Gudra with Lost Zone, so they need those items to get going with their engine and just put energy on their Pokemon. But Gudra is so tanky, can it get through with only little item lock attacks?
Yeah, it's really interesting to see if Milos actually opts to use Vikavolt here in this game plan. I'm not 100% sure how effective it will be because Gudra can just eat those paralyzing bolts for breakfast, if I'm completely honest with you. And then with that Moisture Star ability, can eat even more for breakfast. So Hermione there on the right with Gudra, V-Star, Milos on the left there with Lugia, Vika, Volt. Oh, it's an exciting time, baby. Regional final. Let's make some noise. Let's go.
We're going to get this started soon. They're just shoveling up their decks ready to go. I'm really excited to see how they're going to deal with each other. We don't have a lot of kind of tech cards in either deck for one another. I just don't think that they were particularly expecting this final, and I don't think we were either. I would be more than happy to welcome either of them as our regional champion though. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. I think Yveltal, Amazing Rat Yveltal, is definitely a Pokemon card that we need to look out for in this one, where it may be able to take down that Gudra in the right situation. So it's definitely something to consider. Powerful energy could come into this too, but if Gudra's sheer force of will and just being so strong and tanky, not being able to take an extra 80 damage per turn if the rolling irons keep hitting consistently, it could just all roll away with Goodra.
No, 100%. And I want to let you into a little secret there, chat. I know that Hermione is playing Choice Belt, and that's actually come up a lot, he's told me, throughout this event. Maybe not going to see it too much here in a Lugia matchup, because I'm sure Big Power Soul is going to be really important as well. But worth noting that Goodra, with that Choice Belt, will be able to knock out basic Lugia V and Stoutland as well. So keep an eye on that one.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly each of the players brings to this match and how they decide to use their deck against one another. It's going to be interesting to see exactly what each player has planned for this really unique matchup. Right,
Amy, I'm going to put you here right on the spot right now. What do you think is going to win?
I got to say, as much as Milosh was absolutely lovely when I interviewed them earlier, I got to say I'm rooting for Goodra here. I think the Goo's going to get it.
Well, you're going to go for the Goodra? Okay, well, that's going to leave me, Mr. Boring, and then I'm going to take Lugia Vikavolt. And here we are. We're going to cut to the action here. Prize cards. Let's look at Milos there on the left. We see the 1 copy of Research, 1 copy of Boss. The amazing rare Yveltal, actually, could prove really pivotal here, because that's one of Milos' only way of just getting a Goodra clean out the active position. And it is Hermione looking like starting with a VIP Battle Pass as well. Tell you what, if you're in a regional finals, I have to imagine if you flip heads and you call the coin flip right and you're going first, that's a big relief. But then having a VIP Battle Pass in your opening hand as well, Hermione must be loving life right now.
Absolutely going to be adoring it. And that Temple of Sinnoh, though, in Hermione's prize cards could be interesting too. I'm not sure how many they play in the deck right now, but obviously that's one of the ways that you kind of shut Lugia down and stop it from working as effectively as we'd love it to. So that's really interesting too. It's one of those situations where, honestly, it could go either way. These prize cards could seem really important right now, but the order of them is also incredibly important, and that Yveltal's really early in Milosh's prizes. But Hermione starts off that turn just taking a really thorough deck check here, as they should, making sure that they figured out roughly what's in their prize cards, what could affect their game. But an interesting start from both of them. Hermione in a pretty okay position with Goodra, however not ideal for the Lost Box. Goodra's actually quite difficult to retreat onto the bench to get those comp phase going.
No, you're right, and you're right. In all actuality, he probably doesn't want the Goodra there right now. You want to be using, comp phase and all things like this, and all manner of, so you can get cards in the Lost Zone to activate those Mirage Gates. 7 will be the magic number. 7 activates Mirage Gate, letting you get 2 basic energy cards from your deck and attach them to your Pokemon any way you like. That's how we're going to be accelerating that awkward attack cost there for that rolling iron.
And here come the first 2 comp phase. I wonder if Hermione's going to be able to flip them into the active so that they can get that Lost Zone engine going this turn. However, they won't be able to use any attackers yet. So again, with the Lost Zone engine, we know that it does accelerate later in the game. It's happy taking its time right now. Goodra being down this early is a little unfortunate, but I don't think it matters too much when we're looking at Milosh's state so far. Having to start with Stoutland V. Arguably not the best Pokemon in this matchup, but also not the worst. It can take those comp phase for an extra prize card.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, actually, because the Stoutland, you like to imagine, can get real good use in, like you said, carrying the comp phase, but you don't really want to leave it just in the active position there, because it can maybe get picked off, get damaged via Cramorant, and then it can get KO'd to a rolling iron later on. You sort of want to spring that Stoutland towards the end of the game. You can just try and take 2 prizes to close the game up. So let's have a little look at Hermione's list and what we're working with here. We do see 3 copies of Temple of Sinnoh. That's going to be another real strong defense against a Lugia deck. Temple of Sinnoh making all colorless and all special energy just count as 1 single colorless energy and have no other use as well. We do also see 1 copy of Roxanne that could come up towards the late game, really limiting some options. And then that 1 copy of Choice Belt. We don't actually see any copies of Big Parasol here in the list, actually, which means Amazing Rare Yveltal is going to be live all the time at KOing a Goodra. But Hermione isn't to know that Milos's Yveltal is currently chilling in the prize card.
Oh no, but on the positive side, Hermione's managed to do some fantastic flower selecting, already up to 3 Pokemon cards in the Lost Zone, which is awesome. And they don't look too detrimental to his game state, which is fantastic. Looks like a Comfey, a Mirage Gate, and an ordinary Rod. They've got plenty of those in the deck each, and the Comfeys they've got out right now seem fine, but they know that they're up against the gargantuan Lugia by the looks of things, and they've benched those two Goodra ready just in case one of them takes a fall this turn.
No, 100% correct. And looking over at Milos' turn, it's his first turn here in this regional championship. Probably going to do a little deck search there, you know, try and work out what's been prized. And keep a mental note of that. I mean, if there's any time to do a prize check, it's probably game one of a regional finals.
Absolutely. Whenever players are looking through their deck for the first time, trying to work out what your prize cards are is rather essential to your whole game plan. Mapping out your prize cards, sequencing, and knowing those prize cards can all be really important at the beginning. They've managed to take the Archeops, which is fantastic, a nice start for Lugia, but we don't see a Lugia itself yet. Quick balling one of them away to search the deck for one basic Pokemon. Hopefully we might see that Lugia now, so that we can get off the ground. But again, still checking through that deck, and I think, yeah, more than ever, this is the most essential time to be having a double and a triple check of absolutely everything. Lugia players have a lot to remember. Although the deck seems easy to pilot, it's really not. There's a lot more to think about than you might expect. All your different Pokemon, there's a lot of one-offs there. All your different energy. Well, some lists play 15, 16, 14, all sorts of numbers, and different amounts of each. Oh, Luminion hits the bench as well. That's interesting. Getting set up just in case.
Yeah, Luminion's a card that we've seen be used so much via Lugia over this course of the weekend. That Aqua return really good at that attack, letting you shuffle itself back in and do a little 120 damage poke. And obviously Luminion's sign, letting you, when you bench it, grab a supporter from your deck and put it straight into your hand. It looks like Milos here is opting to play the Mant, and I really like this approach. We all know that these Lost Zone decks like to grow their hand over time, so they have all the options so they can pluck out, you know, Mirage Gates when they need them, play Chorus, you know, use power selecting. Any player that's using a Lost Box style engine, their hand can get, you know, up to 8, 9, 10 cards. It can get a little bit out of hand. So Milos there opting to say, wait, hold on a second. Let me put your hand back down to a reasonable size while I continue to do my setup.
Yeah, that's the thing. They do, like everyone was saying earlier, end up with this accordion-style hand where they just have absolutely loads. And keeping that under control can be a really effective way of countering these decks, making sure that they don't manage to build up those resources and then just sequence them to perfection. But looks like not a bad turn for turn one on either player's side of the board, but we are switching back to Hermione, who is going to start off popping more cards in the Lost Zone soon. There it is.
So here we go over to Hermione, starting off their turn two. Now, in an ideal world, you would like to see a rolling iron here, right? That's what you try and get the turn two rolling iron. But let's see if the hand supports it. You do see a Radiant Greninja, fantastic card. Then you discard an energy from your hand and draw two via its ability concealed cards. Never a bad card to have. Starting off the turn, here it is. Let's see what. Okay, if I see a quick ball, I think. What else did I see there?
Yeah, we can't quite see the hands, but that's okay. I'm sure we'll see all the cards in due time.
Here we see a flower selector. It's going to get forward to the Lost Zone now as the Roxanne. That's the only copy of Roxanne that Hermione plays, so keep that in mind. We won't be seeing Roxanne this game, at least from Hermione's side of the board. And let's see. Okay, so we see a Chorus. Okay, this hand looks pretty good, actually. I see a Chorus. I see a Capture Energy.
Yeah, a Mirage Gate, a Cramorant, a Quick Ball. Really quite a good selection. It's just what they're going to decide to do first. The sequencing of a Lost Zone box deck is really important. There's a big debate over whether you should use your flower selecting first or your Chorus Experiment first. I mean, I'm never quite sure, to be quite honest.
No, I'm going to say it's going to take someone with a much bigger brain than me to tell me which one to do first. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't play Lost Box decks. But it looks like Hermione opted to go for the Chorus here. And it looks like we can say, so we see a VIP Battle Pass. That's always going to get sent straight to the Lost Zone. And I wonder what else Hermione takes. They're trying to get to that 7 in the Lost Zone so you can activate Mirage Gates, try and find the Goodra V-Star and get rolling with that rolling iron. So we see one copy of Metal Energy and a VIP Battle Pass hit the Lost Zone as it gets taken up to 6.
Yeah, honestly, they are going to be using that Lost Zone to get rid of cards that they don't need, like VIP Battle Pass, while keeping resources they do. They're going to need to keep an eye on those metal energies. I know that obviously we did have to use one for concealed cards this turn as well, so a couple of metal energy have already hit very visible areas of play. So that could become troublesome in the late game if they don't use their recovery items well. So this is going to be interesting to see if they can keep up.
Yeah, there we see the escape rope player there for Harmony. I'd probably like to imagine he didn't want to play that, trying to get damage in that Stoutland, maybe via that one copy of Choice Belt, would be really advantageous, just removing that threat from play. But unfortunately, he had to play the escape rope to try and get to that 7 in the Lost Zone. Does actually have a Mirage Gate and a V-Star in hand, but I don't know if he has a way to remove this Comfort out of the active and get swinging. I'm not 100% sure. Looks like they're checking the discard pile. Looks like Milos only has one Archeops in there right about now.
It's a really excellent hand otherwise as well, including the good old Temple of Sinnoh, meaning that special energy only count for one basic energy. They don't have any of their special amazing abilities, and that's what Lugia relies on. It needs it for a bunch of its attackers, Lugia itself being one of the only ones which is self-sufficient with basic energy.
You know, yeah, you're 100% correct, because it has got an all-colorless attack cost. All the other cards that we see in Lugia, a la, you know, Amazing Rare Raikau, Yveltal, even the Vikavolt here, which Milos is playing, all need at least one colored energy. So if Temple of Sinnoh does stick around, Milos will have to twiddle his thumbs or just attack with Tempest Dive, as it were. Or what's the Archeops attack called? Speed Wing, I believe.
Yeah, Speed Wing. And Milos only runs one Stadium and one Lost Vacuum. Yeah. But they do run a way to search it. And since this Stadium doesn't allow them to sort of switch off abilities or anything like Path to the Peak, we still will be able to see a Luminion for that Skylar and that beautiful combo into the Lost Vacuum. So they do have an easy out, unlike if Temple of Sinnoh was Path to the Peak instead, for example.
Yeah, no, you have plenty of outs. Even got the Punkaboot as well to remove any stagings. But it looks like Hermione isn't going to... So close, tantalizingly close to that turn 2 rolling iron. But I'm not 100% sure if they can get that. I don't think they've got another way to attach any to result. We're just going to see an attach retreat into the Greninja. Interesting. I mean, that's probably the biggest HP Pokemon. Yeah, with Stoutland knocking about Greninja. I don't think Stoutland can actually reach into Greninja. And if it did, that means all the powerful energy is going to be attached there. So it looks like, yeah, just saying, let me just put up the biggest wall I can that gives up one prize and passes over to Milos. I believe here, Milos, now maybe the pendulum of power swings a little bit more back to him. If he can get a big summoning star and start swinging around, maybe even try and get a big boss KO onto that Gudra before it uses rolling on. That's going to set Hermione back quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Hermione did start with 2 Gudra Vs out so that they're in the position to evolve another one at a moment's notice. But again, Milos could even boss's orders that V and take that one out before it even can become a Gudra V-Star. So yeah, I completely agree that it could be swinging the other way now. We'll have to see if they're able to keep up. I believe that Skylar is searching out something, but I wonder what they're going to take. Or is the Evolution Incense?
This probably just finds either an Archeops or the Lugia V-Star, so we can get the Summoning Star popping off. We do see a Crit Ball in Milos' hand as well, so this could just be for an Archeops discard. Maybe it has a way to get Lugia V-Star in hand already, then get the Summoning Star. Or has the Lugia V-Star. Here we go. Going to see a Summoning Star, I believe. And Milos, here we do see a V-Star marker. Loving a little bit of cardboard there for a 2 full value. And now Primal Turbo is online. 4 special energies. I'm laughing because it's still a crazy ability. 4 special energies going to be attached from the deck.
Yeah, and they can pick anything they need. It's really flexible. You can use the Primal Turbo attacks individually, so you can attach to 2 separate Pokemon if you want. And they've still got an attach return on top of that, so they do have kind of really the ball in their court at the moment. They can just accelerate this deck fast now. And
I love this play here, getting the Amazing Rare Raikau out with that amazing shot, allowing you to KO the actives. I do believe Radiant Greninja is weak to lightning, so KO in that, and then can either KO Comfey, take a 2 prize turn, or can start setting up damage on the Gudra. Maybe maybe forcing Hermione to use that Moisture Star at an inopportune time, only healing off 120, but you can't really let that hang around because Gudra with 120 damage on it can definitely get reached into by a Tempest Dive. So let's see where Milos puts this damage. Looks like it is going to be onto the Gudra. I really like that play.
Yeah, putting pressure on a Gudra player like that is essential because they can just Rolling Iron, decreasing their damage by 80 per turn and doing 200 damage themselves to the opponent. Yeah,
and I think that's really, really important because it forces the Moisture Star here, and that's something that Hermione doesn't want to do because that means the Lugia can just start barreling down, do 2 Tempest Dives, and really start threatening KO range. Let's see what Hermione does. Have the Temple of Sinnoh. Opted not to play it last turn, which maybe could have defended him against this Raikou, but does have it in hand now, so could, you know, maybe be a little bit of a disruption route, maybe Moisture Star plus Temple of Sinnoh plus KO, and force Milos to actually, you know, find the outs to that Temple of Sinnoh.
Yeah, interestingly, the Gudra deck with the Lost Zone engine doesn't really play much other healing or any other healing in this instance. So unlike some other builds we've seen in the past where they've utilized Hyper Potion or Cheryl, this one doesn't play any other. They are relying on that Moisture Star ability. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with that and when they do choose to use it, because there is another Gudra on the bench. They could try and just wall this one out to see if Temple of Sinnoh plus an attack is enough.
No, yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, I think this amazing Raikou probably has to go because I don't think looking at Hermione's, no, there is no copy of Mana Feast, so we can't really allow the... Oh, was that boss's orders? I imagine that was a boss's orders into the Archeop. Oh, and I like this play, actually.
Nice, yes.
You could try and combine this KO, remove an Archeops, and then maybe put Temple of Sinnoh down and really force us in a difficult position there, saying now you can only attach 2 energies, and they're going to actually count as just colorless as well. That's like Hermione's debating on what to do here.
Yeah, we haven't seen this tactic on stream, I don't believe, where someone is targeting down the Archeops to stop Lugia being able to accelerate quite as fast, with most of their attackers needing multiple energy attaches per turn, more than just what one Primal Turbo can provide, especially with the big threat of Yveltal to Gudra V-Star being probably one of the most feared cards.
And there is the Temple. There is the Temple. I really like this turn, actually, because if you can remove this Archeops now, that means that Lugia V-Star is going to take a minimum, you know, a few turns before it can actually get going. Oh, he's opted not to use the Moisture Star. Wow, okay. So obviously Rolling Iron's effect means it does take 80 less damage from attacks now. So it has got a lot of HP left. But that Temple of Sinnoh does mean that Raikou can currently not attack. It can retreat, but it cannot attack. And Milos has to try and find outs via Lost Vacuum, Collapse Stadium, or Punkaboo. One of those needs to come out now.
Yeah, or even a combination of the two, but the Yveltal from the prize cards
gets
benched next.
So that means there's going to be no Punkaboo out now. It has the Stadium in hand, the immediate response.
And what are they going to discard from their own board? Maybe Stoutland? Lumineal is really useful because it can loop back into the deck, and it can take a KO on Omani's board. So, yeah, I think we see the removal of the Stoutland there, so it's not going to go and pop their powerful energy on there. I think it is a bit too much for them.
Although looking at Milos' hands there, having to play the Collapse Stadium now means that he cannot use that Ultra Ball, so that means he's going to be stuck using an attacker that is on the field. So Raikou can swing again, don't mind it, but he can't Ultra Ball out something else. Bearing in mind that Gudra has an effective 230 HP now with that damage reduction. So that Lugia would have been in range, actually, very easily if the second Archeops was around, but Hermione saw to that one.
Yeah, Miller's board is full now as well because of the Collapse Stadium. So unless they remove it themselves with a Lost Vacuum, they can't bench anything else anyway. So they wouldn't be able to get anything else out. However, everything on their field, apart from the Archeops at this point, is a valid attacker. So it looks like they're going to start slow attaching to that Yveltal, making it a threat, making Omani know that it is there and it's not messing around.
Yeah, this is really a double-edged sword here attack for Milos, because it's really tough. Hermione doesn't want to let this Raikou just keep swinging. With no mana fee, he's going to keep KOing, you know, benched Comfey, start setting up that Lumineon now as well. But then you also don't really want that Yveltal just chilling there, because Hermione opted not to play any comes a big Parasol. The only defense against the Yveltal is Temple of Sinnoh. One's in the prizes, and then one's already been played. So it's almost like pick your poison here. We've already, and here we go. And wait, was that a pass? Oh no, it's attacked. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was an attack. So they've
And then
attacked
KO'd a
through.
Comfey, was it?
Yeah, and
Okay.
the Comfey is gone. So that goes to the discard pile. And ooh.
Looks like we saw a switch into a flower selecting.
Nice. And then we'll see if this one pulls through. They haven't got any more flowers selected. There's no more Comfey on board. One in the lost zone too. So there's not a lot more Hermione can do for card draw now that sort of Greninja isn't there as well.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic point. And the Greninja normally gets so much value over the course of the game. When you can just keep using conceal cards. But now, like you said, that's been KO'd. You know, see a Comfey in the discard pile, one in the lost zone, and one in the active. So Hermione's sort of draw is going to start to dwindle over the course of the game, and you can only rely on Chorus's experiment.
Yeah, you can tell these two players really know their deck back to front. It feels like they've played this matchup 10 times over, and they can't have, surely. Like, especially with Milosh's deck, I suppose at the moment it's presenting very, very typical Lugia, when we haven't seen any of those crazy tech cards as of yet.
So there we see the Chorus experiment, probably a very easy decision there, getting rid of a Drapion. Won't be needing that anytime soon. And one Comfey. Opting to keep the scoop up net. That's going to be good to get that Comfey out the active so Hermione can start swinging again with the rolling iron. I wonder if he's going to opt to use the Moisture Star now. This seems to me this is going to have to be the optimal turn to do that. As we see another Gudra come down with a metal energy attachment as well.
Two Gudra V-Star isn't a bad position, but can they get enough energy on it to use it this turn so they can avoid using the damaged one? Is it Moisture Star time?
I think
it might be.
I think it is. It's only got an effect. It's got 160 HP left, and after.
Yeah, that's kind of risky. Although, again, that Yveltal's looking really, really close to being set up. The Archeops plus an attach for turn would probably seal the deal there. I can't quite see. I think that, yeah, it's a double turbo energy and an Aurora already. So that would be one Archeops plus one attach for turn from hand, and that Yveltal's going to take a KO. Ooh.
Right, so that Guya's taking 160 damage in total. And then after the rolling iron, it will be on what, 240 effective
theoretical
HP?
health.
Theoretical health. Yeah, I'll make that.
So this is quite interesting, actually. I think what maybe is going through Hermione's head is that they're going to try and maybe bait the Yveltal into taking out something that's already damaged a lot and then take a return KO, saving Moisture Star for when it matters near the end of the game for more of a closing line and a finisher to see them to the very end. Yeah,
I think you're right. Hermione just sort of going to give up this one. I hope that the second Gudra is the one that can carry him through the rest of the game. It's very possible and very plausible. Just feel a little bit bad for this attacking Gudra here. Most likely going to go to the discard pile.
Yeah, I don't know if Milosh can get enough energy on this Lugia this turn. So this will be interesting to see what happens next. I'm sure that they have some sort of plan in mind. But the collapsed stadium isn't doing as much work as it was. Obviously, both players can place more Pokemon on their bench, so I wonder whether we'll see another attacker go down.
Yeah, it's interesting. After the Primal Turbo, I believe Milos can't actually... He attached both of those for the Primal Turbos.
Yeah, there's still one from hand, potentially, so we'll have to see if... There it is, another powerful energy, and that does take out our Gudra. Had the powerful
from hand, and Hermione getting punished there, opting not to use the Moisture Star, sort of running the gambit and just hoping that Milos couldn't get that Lugia to get the KO. And I think that KO is going to be huge in this game. This other Gudra has to go the distance. And Hermione has got that Luminion there on the bench. And don't forget, Milos is only 2 prize cards away from winning. E.g., Miloski is only a boss away on that Luminion from taking game 1 here in this finals.
Absolutely, it could be as simple as that. So there's a lot of work to put in here for our Gudra friends. Unfortunately, that Yveltal is still a threat. That's still on the board. It could still take out a KO with amazing destruction, which just removes a Pokemon from the board. It immediately knocks it out. There's not much you can do about it without the work of a Parasol.
Yeah, interesting decision for Hermione not to play the big Parasol. I mean, I'm sure he's navigated his way through plenty of Lugia matchups, but, you know, we see it be really popularized in the Arc Duraludon, and that would really just remove that Yveltal as a threat if he had a big Parasol attached.
I think maybe that stadium in the prize cards is really affecting this matchup as well. Hermione's deck isn't very big right now, but we know that there's another stadium in there, and it would help in this situation with that Yveltal just posing a threat and looming over the board state.
Yeah, exactly. Even with only one Archeops down, that Yveltal was just chilling there, basically. And I guess Milos isn't to know if Hermione does play big Parasol or not, but it's just being there with such a threat on its own. I think we did see Hermione did have 2 copies of Boss's Orders in their hand, so if he wants, he can get rid of that threat here. Still actually needs to find a Mirage Get. I've just realized before he can even start swinging with that Gudra. I mean, that hand is massive in stats right now. You'd have to imagine he probably does have the access to get this Confate out the active and attack, but if not, I mean, this could get a little bit dicey. It
really could. That deck is really thin. I wonder if the hand is bigger than the deck at this point.
It might be.
I'm not sure.
Escape Row. Now, this is an interesting decision because for Milos, all those cards they had to promote, give up a prize card, number one. You can't really give up the Archeops, going to have no Archeops in play, and you don't really want to give up the Yveltal. So opting to give up 2 prize cards here, potentially, if Hermione can get this Gudra V-Star swinging.
And then we went for promoting Luminion. I'm not entirely sure what the game plan is here. I think we might see something special, but they are popping some energy back into the deck and immediately Mirage Gating it out to guarantee them that energy attached onto the Luminion. So looks like it's going to be looping back into that deck with Aqua Return for 120 damage, shuffling itself and those 3 energy back into the deck.
Interesting. Maybe Hermione trying to set up an ordinary Rod Greninja into a Moonlight Shuriken turn to finish that off. It could be an option. Has left the Comfey in the active, which only does give up 1 prize. We do know that Milos Stoutland is gone, so there is no Stoutland out, at least at this moment in time. But Milos is now a Boss's Orders plus Amazing Destruction away from winning this game.
It could get that scary that quickly, although I do appreciate that Hermione has lowered their deck size to an extent that they could have quite a lot of control over their draw at this point. So although they had to Ordinary Rod things back into the deck, being able to draw through a lot of that quite quickly could work to their benefit. I'm not sure if they can bring this back or not. That Luminion can just loop itself back into the deck with Aqua Return and take the KO on the Comfey. So it could just remove all of that lovely damage that's just been put on.
No, 100%. And here we see the capture energy attachment to the Oranguru, that Primate Wisdom, allowing you to have 2 purposes. Number 1, let you just see an extra card, trying to dig for something. But if you are going to play a support like a Professor's Research, it allows you to preserve 1 card in your hand so you don't have to discard it. So you can guarantee it on the back of that. Really good card. We've seen Oranguru in so many decks, Lost Box decks. We're seeing it in Lugia decks. Such a versatile card. Could even be used to KO this Comfey with Whap Down, of all things.
It could. Doesn't it do 70 damage?
It does do 70 damage, exactly that, yeah. So.
You can do. I've seen Orangurus be used for crazier things, but they are fantastic for consistency and control over your deck state. Again, it's one thing that really
has he got the boss?
Apart.
You have to imagine the way he's playing this turn. Must have a Boss's Orders to go 1 game up there in the finals. Milos had the Boss's Orders in hand.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my goodness gracious me. Milos going game 1 up here in the regional finals there with the Lugia deck into the Hisuian Gudra. Oh my goodness. All of a sudden your pick of Gudra is currently 1-0 down.
No, I believe. I think those prize cards were silly. I think, honestly, both of these decks still have a chance. That was fantastic plays from both sides. I think a lot of those moves were far more intelligent than I could have pulled off, and that's why I'm behind the desk today. So, honestly, really thrilled with those games. Did you have a highlight move from those?
I think the boss KO on the Archeops was really strong. I liked it at the time, but unfortunately, Hermione sort of fizzled out in that mid to late game, wasn't really able to keep maintaining pressure. I believe that Turnway opted to not use the Moisture Star. I can appreciate the sort of gamble, just sort of hoping that it's not going to get KO'd, but in the end, it was proved to be kind of important and lost the game there. But you know, these players are both fantastic, being able to get to the final. So I don't think it's out of it by any means, and is capable of still winning this.
Yeah, honestly, I really enjoyed that that moment for almost the opposite reasons, because I love the gamble and I loved seeing it. I kind of understood the play there. I was racking my brain thinking, oh my goodness, what are they doing? And then to realize what control element they were trying to bring into the game state, that was lovely to see.
Yeah, no, it's definitely all to play for here. And I guess I didn't actually get to turn to Rolling Iron, so maybe didn't set up 100%. I believe did sort of slow down in that mid-late game, haven't been forced to give up the Radiant Greninja. Amazing Rare Raikau put in a ton of value. And I believe even as early as that Raikau turn, I believe it was turn 2, the amazing shot just applying pressure to Gudra. Gudra doesn't want to have 120 damage on it before it started swinging, because like you said, it's just going to leave it in vulnerable positions to Tempest Dives, or it forces early Moisture Starts, which you don't really want to do. And it just put Hermione in a difficult position.
Yeah, it honestly leaves it in this middling plateau of not really knowing what it wants to do. And it's with a non-healing deck variant of Gudra, it does put it on the back foot, because like you said, not being able to Moisture Star at the moment that you want to, which preferably is late game, you want to be doing a Moisture Star ability to heal all of your damage off your Gudra in the turn that it would otherwise take the KO for game.
Yeah, exactly. You really want to be popping that Moisture Star if you're at like 200 plus damage. Moisture just removing all damage from the Gudra. Really strong, but again, being able to set it up via amazing shot, it really put Hermione in a difficult position, saying, almost baiting it, saying, are you going to take this gamble? Are you going to assume that I cannot reach the numbers? And Hermione did flip the coin, as it were, and unfortunately came up wrong for him.
Oh, but honestly, I think either of these could still be champs.
Oh,
I see so much potential in these decks. They've clearly been fine-tuned for this moment. It will just be interesting to see exactly what happens next and whether the second game is going to go differently or not. Because it was strange to see that Hermano had sort of a really rocky start for setup and then brought it back a bit, and then it did fall apart a little bit, unfortunately, at the end. Yeah,
you have to be a little bit unfortunate there. You know, it was actually going first as well, won the corner, had a VIP battle pass to start. But then the Lugia was just popping off immediately. If that turn 2 Summoning Star, applying pressure via Raikau, and the Temple of Sinnoh didn't really stick long enough. Having one copy in the prizes, maybe if that came out in the late game, could have been more impactful. But unfortunately, it wasn't. And it looks like maybe seeing the lack of Big Parasol just coming back to haunt him.
Yeah, I wonder what the decision process was there. I imagine they did a ton of testing.
Yeah, 100%.
Probably found so many other ways to deal with the fact that Yveltal has that crazy attack, especially like with the stadium count. I feel like that's one of the surefire ways. They were like, you know what, I've got this. I win this stadium trade. I win keeping the last stadium down and having the final word, really, because if one of those stadiums sticks, and having 3 against Lugia is quite a large number when their outs tend to be Lost Vacuum and Pumpkaboo, and sometimes only one Lost Vacuum, like I think we're seeing today.
Yeah, a lot of Lugia lists are getting a little bit cheeky with their stadium out. You know, some are playing, you know, only 1 copy of Lost Vacuum, and some are playing 1 copy of Lost Vacuum and 1 Pumpkaboo. So you're right, if Hermione can basically say, if I can just stick a Temple of Sinnoh at the end of the game, you're going to be doing nothing, and I'm going to be doing Rolling Iron for a potential 230 with that choice belt, making it life hard for Milos. But it looks like here we are. Both players have shuffled up and are getting ready for this game 2. And I wonder what they are thinking about. What do you reckon is going through their head right now?
Honestly, if I were them, I'd be shaking in my boots. I feel like there's a lot of nerves going on here. I hope that they're, you know, using their note-taking to their abilities, kind of whether it's on paper or in their heads, and just really making sure. I know that I'm an on-paper person, because if I try and remember how many energy have gone out of my deck already, it would just be gone instantly. I imagine they're revising over how that game went as well, and thinking, right, what can I do differently? Was there anything I could have done differently? Maybe I shouldn't take that risk this time, or you know what, I took it first, I'll take it again.
It's really interesting. This could be something that could come up. You have to imagine that Hermione has definitely tested the Lugia matchup. Maybe hasn't tested the Lugia Vikavolt matchup, I grant you, but has definitely tested the Lugia matchup. But Milosk I don't know. I feel as if everyone's aware of Goodra, right? Everyone knows what it does, but do people really dedicate testing time to Goodra? I feel as if it might be low down on the priority list. Like if I was testing for a regional, you know, Lugia's up there, Mew's up there, Lost Box variants up there. Goodra, I mean, time is precious. I don't know if everyone's got time to test against Goodra, so maybe that limited matchup knowledge could come back to help Hermione.
Yeah, we did an interview with Robin earlier, didn't we, in the weekend? And they were saying about not being able to physically test for every single matchup.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong here, but I believe Goodra was one of the examples they gave us.
Was
Not
it?
something they did not test against. They were like, you can't test against everything. You know, things like Goodra. And I just sat there like, oh, no, I quite like Goodra, actually. And now here it is in the final. And maybe it did get overlooked. Maybe people just didn't test enough against Goodra and thought that it was the weak link, when actually really sturdy decks like itself and Duraludon can be really scary. I think Duraludon is another one that we've seen in the top 8 today.
Yeah, we saw 2 in top 8.
2 in top 8 and a Goodra. You think, oh, crikey, that's 3 of the 8, which are big tanky decks, which are really hard to take down, and why we rely in Lugia decks so much on Amazing Rare Yveltal.
Yeah, that Amazing Rare Yveltal doesn't really matter what it's hitting into. Could be a Duraludon, going to the discard pile. Could be a Goodra, going to send to the discard pile just straight away. What a crazy attack that is, that Amazing Destruction. And I feel as if that's definitely going to be one thing to keep note of, is if that Amazing Destruction can come out, because, you know, if I'm not playing big Parasol, there's no defense against that. It's just going to, Yveltal it will just run free reign and, you know, being able to eject a Goodra V-Star. Yeah, it's just a goner, unfortunately. And we see that when we go into the next format, when we're looking at Japan's results and we're seeing that Giratina's doing really well. Yes,
without Parasol, any attack that can just send something straight to the discard pile and KO it instantly is really powerful, because we have absolutely nothing to protect against it. No, 100%. Goodra's really good at reducing damage, you know. It reduces damage by 80, but Yveltal says, I don't do damage, I just knock you out. Don't worry about that damage. Don't worry about that. You could have 500 HP. You're getting knocked out. So let's definitely keep our eyes on Amazing Rare Yveltal. But it looks like the players are getting ready, you know, for this game too. Hermione currently 1-0 down, but will obviously, I imagine, opt to go first. Milosk on the left, who did go second last game, but managed to navigate to victory. Yeah, we'll see how we go, because like you said, it doesn't necessarily for either of these decks go the perfect way every single time you get to go the way that you choose, whether you go first or second. Lugia can do great going first, but actually if you don't find those Archeops to put in the discard pile early, it can spell disaster. And we obviously saw last game how it cannot pan out so super for Goodra too. No, 100%. And make no mistake about it, people at home. You know, when you're playing here on the stage, just have to take a look at these prize cards real quick. The Raikous you saw was, I think, super pivotal, actually, in the last game, is currently in the prize cards for Milos. Over at Hermione's side of the board, 2 copies of VIP Battle Pass, just play the full 4 count, 1 copy of Chorus and 1 copy of Boss. But here we go, game 2, a win or go home scenario for Hermione, as he starts off again with that Hisuian Goodra V. But we did see that last game, and he was able to navigate it quite well. Capture energy, have to imagine this finds a Comfey. Yeah, absolutely. Isn't it enticing to see the deck's kind of star Pokemon in the active spots for each player? Love to see literal Lugia versus literal Hisuian Goodra against one another, clash of the titans. But unfortunately, Goodra's not wanted in the active right now. He needs to slither back to the bench somehow, please. Goodra is very enthusiastic and wants to get Hermione this win, but we don't quite want you there. I appreciate the enthusiasm. You want to get stuck in. But not yet. We want you on the bench a little bit more, my friend. Hermione probably just going to do a little deck search here, making sure you're seeing what's prized, seeing, okay, got 1 Chorus, got 1 Boss prize, got the Crown Man prize. That is his only copy of Crown Man as well, so that could be really good at, you know, carrying the 1 prize Pokemon, but at the minute, Crown Man is currently in the prize cards. Yeah, it will be interesting, because we'll definitely see a very different playstyle from Milosh here because of that prized Raikous. So
yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool to see exactly what they do with that and how they get rid of those Comfeys. Maybe Stoutland will come around this time and not get discarded. Yeah, we didn't even see Stoutland in the last game, but Stoutland's really good at closing games out on Comfeys. Obviously, double dip Fang, you take 1 extra prize card if you knock out a basic Pokemon, and
Comfy only has 70 HP.
So a couple of powerful energy definitely lets Stoutland chomp its jaws down on a Comfy for those extra prizes. It can't do it on its own, only doing 40 damage, so they do have to use those powerful energies wisely.
And those powerful energies are going to be like gold dust, because we did see at the end of game 1, Tempest Dive in combination with powerful energies was able to reach that magic number and KO the Hisuian Goodra V-Star. So it's really interesting to see, actually, and what I think about it, if Stoutland will come out, because you have to imagine you really want to close the game with Stoutland. You don't really want to use it in the mid game. You want to end the game with it. But that would involve holding onto your powerful energy until the end, and then that means Lugia isn't going to be as potent. So a little bit of a chess match there. And that's actually one thing I think that a lot of people don't consider about Lugia, is that the resource management is so important. You've only got so many colored energies. You've only got so many powerfuls. You've only got so many DTEs for retreating and or to power up attacks. Ooh. So you've got to keep that in mind. The switch in hand, that beautiful play pop promo as well. Very nice. Two Temple of Sinnohs in the opening hand.
Yeah, and a choice spout
and
there.
A choice spout. That hand doesn't actually fill me with confidence, though. There's no supporter. Is there another switch? Oh no! Is that wait? All three copies of Temple of Sinnoh. There's no supporter in this hand.
Oh,
we can't even use another Comfey.
It can be scooped up, but
not
much
reused.
else.
Not like this. And yeah, that's going to have to just be a pass over to Hermione. That Comfey is going to have to draw some real good cards next turn. But over to Milos. He isn't really to know that Hermione's hand isn't that great. Let's see. So we see an Ultra Ball getting rid of a Marnie and a Professor's Research, I believe that is. No Archeops, though.
No Archeops in hand yet, so Milos is going to have the difficult job of hunting down those 2 prehistoric birds first. But they must have another supporter in hand ready to go. They must have had quite the supporter-heavy hand at the beginning if you're using an Ultra Ball to get rid of 2 now. And, of course, then probably going to be playing 1. So maybe they do take the Archeops here.
Maybe. You have to imagine, if you're Hermione now thinking, I've got no support in my hand, my hand is a bit dire, and you see Milos Ultra Ball away 2 supporters, and Hermione, so 3 supporters, you're thinking,
my gosh.
Come on, you've got 3 supporters, I've got none, I've got 3 stadiums though. Like
I bet they wish they could trade a little bit.
Yeah. Sometimes that's just the nature of the beast though when it comes to TCGs, but it's still up to Milos here to, get those Archeops in the discard pile. He was able to actually navigate game 1 well with only 1 Archeops for most of the game. So, but in ideal world, you want to get 2 in the discard pile ASAP. But you have to imagine if there was 2 Marnies and a Research in the opening hand that have been discarded by a Quick Ball, there has to be another good card in that hand.
Yeah, I think especially knowing that Hermione isn't afraid of going and targeting down those Archeops, settling for 1 just would not cut it.
Now, I have to imagine maybe that's through the test and that Hermione's done against Lugia. Maybe that's the way they found is the best way. And yeah, there was a Research. What a stacked hand that was.
Oof. Yeah, they managed to get that sorted. We've got a plethora of energy, a Lugia V-Star, a Manaphy. Oh my goodness.
Is there a way to discard? Oh yeah, I guess you can Evolution Incense for an Archeops, then read the Windit. But hasn't got a way to put down another Lugia, I believe. And that's a little bit suspect because we know that that Goodra V from Harney does have that copy of Choice Belt attached. A really rare card to see in Goodra. But what that means is that Goodra V-Star can, with its Rolling Iron, actually KO a basic Lugia V. So if Hermione can get that rolling next turn, if you pardon the pun, you can maybe close this game out really early.
It could be interesting to see whether they manage that due to the lost zone count. They didn't manage to rack up last turn.
True.
Only 1 energy currently on Goodra. I believe it's only a capture energy. And Goodra is going to need a metal and a water energy to do anything in its V-Star form if they can evolve it.
No, you're right. So let's see what Milos does. I think it's got to be a read the wind. I don't think. Yeah, there's the read. So there is 2 Archeops in discard pile there for Milos, but leaving himself very vulnerable. Actually, this Goodra V-Star can come out. It actually wins the game. What is this Flower Selecting going to be? I see an Escape Rope and a Mirage Gate. Mirage Gate, it seems painful getting rid of it. I think you kind of have to.
I don't think you have a choice in the situation. You need to try for it. Popping another Goodra in the active. Comfy back on bench.
There we see the Escape Rope. Get another Flower Selecting. Kind of want to see a Colress. No. Oh, goodness gracious me. That is not what you want to see. Oh no, that's heartbreaking.
It really is.
Not even a apart from energy, just having to pass. Was that asking for the discard pile, sorry. Asking for the discard pile.
I was going to say, no, they haven't attached for turn yet. They could put that water energy on Gudra, because if they do top deck into a metal energy, it's or flower selecting, it's possible. Yeah. Unfortunately, it might give Lugia the momentum it needs.
You don't want to give Lugia any opportunities to get ahead of itself there. You might have to put a Temple of Sinnoh down now this turn. I think you're going to have to try and defend yourself.
In every way possible.
But then, like you said, you kind of want to win the stage and more of that Temple of Sinnoh. And if you're the first one to put it down, that means, you know, Milos does have 3 staging amounts, means he can win the stage and more. But I'm just interested to see what's happening here. Do you like his debate? I think he's debating whether to put the temple down.
I think he is, and he has gone for it. Yeah,
I think you have
You've got to try and slow Lugia down any way possible. Obviously, hoping that maybe they don't get to Summoning Star, but it looks awfully possible right now with 0 hand disruption. There goes the Lugia V-Star.
I think he topped that. I think he topped the Lugia V-Star. Oh, it could have got off to read the wind, actually.
Yeah, he did have one in hand before the start of the turn, so he had at least one, but he could have had more.
Wow, and you have to imagine Hermione's probably thinking, you know, if Milos got rid of 3 supporters, turn 1 of 4 supporters actually, maybe doesn't have a great hand, but off to read the wind, I think it's quite the opposite actually.
Yeah, I mean, it could come back to bite them in the late game if they're really not able to draw into those outs to Temple of Sinnoh. Maybe using up all their supporters in the beginning could be detrimental. We'll have to see if it slows them down or not.
Well, and then goes the primal turbos. I'm laughing because every time I see it, it just makes me laugh. 4 special energies from the deck, and this Lugia will be able to attack even under Temple of Sinnoh, because all those energies just count for 1 colorless now, so we're going to see a flat Tempest dive for 200. I'm actually did Milos have a Serena in hand? I believe he actually might have done. You could even see a Serena. I was going to say it's not going to be a KO actually, because his powerful energies are turned off as it stands now. So I wonder what Milos has. Maybe he has a quick ball to get a Punkaboo. Let's see what else Milos can do.
Milos might just be happy.
There's a Serena.
Oh, they are.
Does he have a way to get rid of that Temple of Sinnoh?
Surely.
Does he have a way?
No, but they're. Oh, yeah.
Oh, how much health is... oh, so it's got 220. Yes, I thought it was a 230. I apologize, people.
Exactly 220.
Wow, what a turn. Milos really applying the pressure.
Whoa, look at that. Had to check that one out, but we got it. That's crazy that they managed to get that sorted on the Gudra that was almost set up. Really low loss zone count right now as well, so really not looking so hot. No way to get that another Comfey on the bench still, so they won't be able to get Mirage Gate this turn either.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do see, was there a quick ball? Might have been a screw pop next, so we could see, I think we've already seen that fast to be used actually, so we're going to have to see a quick ball happen to get rid of the Temple. That must be so sad. I think you kind of have to at this point.
Yeah.
And there we see the text on Tempest Dive. Doesn't come up terribly often, being able to discard a stage, but we're really good at discarding path. And in this case, really welcome text, being able to discard the Temple of Sinnoh.
It's amazing when you see a Lugia deck go a little bit slower than we're used to and still manage to pull off those incredible attacks that do remove stadiums, when we've seen so many people just slow attached to Lugias and do well this weekend even, like under Path to the Peak, where they haven't been able to Summoning Star and then removing it with Tempest Dive. This feels like a really similar scenario.
No, it doesn't. Here we see Hermione going after a quick ball to grab a Luminion, to find a Colress, and I feel it's a little bit sad if you're lost box deck having to grab Colress. Colress really should be getting involved nice and early, but it's just been stuck in the deck as it were. I think Hermione kind of has to, because as it stands now, only 4 in the lost zone and the Crown Man prized of all things. Not a lot is going to be going off by Mirage Gate. So I haven't played this Colress. Let's see what this gets. I see the Greninja. I see 2 cups of water energy. So I think you probably get rid of there a Comfey and maybe 1 water.
Maybe. Again, though, we've ended up with not enough
energy.
Oh,
the Greninja, okay.
We ended up with not enough energy last game, so I was curious of whether they would be a bit concerned about that in this game.
No, yeah, definitely. Opted not to play the Greninja. I guess you could argue that with Raikau winning about. Greninja is a bit of a liability, especially when you've got Comphasers around. You know, it's a 1-prize Pokemon that can get bossed. Mirage Gate and a V. Oh, I feel as if that's... you don't really want to see them back-to-back. But we do see 7 in the Lost Zone now, so Mirage Gate is live. I believe we did see 1 in the hand.
Yeah, there was a Gudra V-Star, so they can start to get things online. And Maybe. Not sure if there was another energy in hand. Was there a water energy in hand that they could attach for turn? But then pivoting the Comfey as well. There's a lot of moving pieces to this machine that still need to happen to get going.
That's the sort of, I don't know, say, limiting factor to these Lost Zone decks, is that the early game you are having to, you know, do a little Comfey dance, play some chorus. It kind of restricts your early game, but then you get rewarded to the mid to late game, saying now you can start attaching energies from deck and go a little bit crazy with it. But it does make your early turns very linear. So let's see what Hermione opts to take off this Mirage Gate. You have to imagine going to try and get that Gudra V set up, and I think you said there was a V-Star in hand already?
Yeah, there's a V-Star in hand already, so luckily they will be able to go ahead and evolve that. Whether they're going to be able to attack with it so that Rolling Iron's in effect, I'm not sure, but Lugia is still going to have a little bit of work ahead of it if it wants to KO a Gudra V-Star, because I imagine we might see another stadium go down just so the powerful energy are turned off. Yeah,
I think if you're Hermione, if you do start attacking with Rolling Iron, you have to put the Temple of Sinnoh down, because with 2 Archeops down, amazingly, your Veto is just way too live. It's way too easy if you just pay retreat and start swinging with amazing destruction. So this is Mil's discard pile there. So there's a lot of supporters there, actually.
Of supporters.
And Mil's only plays 1 copy of Serena and 2 copies of Boss's Orders. So only 2 copies of Boss left for Gust. And let's see how Hermione plays this turn out.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether they can catch up at this point, because for a Lost Zone engine, this is going quite slow at the moment.
I'm not sure if he has a way to get this Comfey out the active. I can see the V-Star, I can see a basic energy, and a Temple of... Oh, no, there is a scoop up net. No, there is a scoop up net.
They were hiding it.
Yeah. So it looks like he's debating on what to do here, but I feel as if you're going to have to Rolling Iron, scoop up net, and then play the Temple and just cross your fingers that the Temple sticks at some point. There's a scoop up net, option to go. Wow, okay, now this is interesting, because this Comfey's going to have to find a switching option now. Does find the escape rope. Wow, that's really good. That means that's going to be able to take out an Archeops there. Wow.
Oh, that's exactly what he must have been
what a turn. What a turn. Oh, I love this. Can't even stick the Temple down. Opts not to, but now that
makes...
we
got the Rolling Iron online, so we've got an -80 damage.
Looks like, yeah, that is a crazy turn. That means the Amazing Ray Yveltal is going to be, it's going to have to come down, get benched, and start attaching to it, which makes it vulnerable to a boss's orders. So that is going to be a massive turn there. Rolling Iron is now online, which means that Gudra is taking 80 less damage. What a turn there. Wow.
Honestly, I think this tactic of taking down those Archeops, this definitely came up for them. This is something they've owned. This is a skill that they have taken and decided, no, this is what works for me, because I can see this really slowing Milosh's play down.
And that's the sort of downside to Milosh not being able to have anything else on the bench. That escape rope effectively becomes a boss's orders at that point. Basically said, I'm going to remove your Archeops. And that means Lugia is now again operating off 1 Primal Turbo. There we see the Radiant Charizard, Combustion Blast. Now, see, that would have been good to have on the bench earlier, because then you could have set that off the escape rope. But let's see what Milosh does here. I don't think he's out of it by any means. Was that a boss's orders? It was a boss's orders. Oh, he gets down to 2 prize cards. Can he get the Amazing Ray Yveltal down? Maybe start attaching to it. I'd like to see that pressure if possible.
I think one of Gudra's greatest strengths is being sort of actually quite lonely on its board state. Having just the Gudra to their Moisture Star, not having any other targets that are going to particularly provide a lot of prize cards isn't a bad thing for Gudra, and it can use that bulkiness to catch up with the game state.
This is a really interesting scenario, because now that Milosh is going to go down to 2 prize cards, that means Stoutland on the Comfey is live as well. We do see 2 powerful energies in play, and there is 1 currently in the prize cards, but chances are Milosh is going to take that here, and provided there isn't a powerful energy in the discard, that's also going to be live as well. But the real good thing that Hermione did there by taking away the Archeops is that all these plays are now going to have to be over 2 turns. You can't just bench Yveltal, or you can't just bench a Stoutland and get it swinging in 1 turn.
But they are going to get that Charizard slightly ready with a Heat Energy increasing its HP and allowing that to be a little more bulky than it normally is. Still definitely takes an L to something like Luminion, but I don't think Luminion's lasting the turn somehow.
No, Tempest Dive.
There it goes.
Wow, okay. Oh, this is a big turn here for Hermione. Can't really deal with this Lugia immediately, as it were. If he see a boss's orders into the next Archeops Dabby, what do we see? Oh, okay, that hand isn't really great. If we do see Ordinary Rod, we do see a Temple of Sinnoh. We see a Capture Energy. Ordinary Rod, we're going to shuffle in, yep, the Luminion and some basic energy along with that one copy of Hisuian Gudra V.
Yeah, keeping energy back in the deck ready for Mirage Gating is really important. I wonder whether they're going to, setting up a Capture Energy. What's going to pop out of the deck? We're probably going to see...
Is it going to be a Gudra V? Fail, so I was going to say you can't really...
use it for a retreat cost.
I was going to say you can't really afford to put down Hisuian Gudra V here because that is just a boss's orders away from being Tempest Dive. So you don't... I don't think Hermione really wants to put down another 2-prize Pokemon here. He's going to try and... You know, maybe just leave that Comfey in play and then just start rolling iron. Maybe use that Temple of Sinnoh. And yeah, just going to see the rolling iron.
They're holding that Temple of Sinnoh, and I like that because it does mean that when they're in a bit more of a weak position, they can Moisture Star and then pop that Temple down to see if that can increase the heft of their deck and see if they can get by on the tankiness of a Gudra alone. So again, they know they're in a bad position with that. They've used lots of stadiums. They do know their opponent plays outs to it, but you know, that's not too worrisome if they just play it when they need it.
No, 100%. Over to Milos, you know, not out of this by any means, still in a very strong position. You know, does still have access to that Archeops, so can still attach energy. Looks like we're seeing a deck search here. Amazing Ray Yvette will move to the front. Maybe this is the turn to bench it and start threatening. Milos probably is starting to realize now that Big Parasol isn't really... Ooh, I thought I could put a Vikavolt down. I was going to say that would be interesting, but probably not the line I'll go down. But yeah, here comes the Amazing Ray Yvette. Now, this is a strong play here. Basically saying you're going to have to get rid of this. You can't really afford to let me get this Amazing Destruction off because that will KO the Hisuian Gudra V-Star and then win him the game and make him a regional champion.
Yeah, it's all to play for still. So threatening your opponent's Pokemon like this in a really aggressive state, saying, look, I have this board state. It's massive. I have this Charizard almost ready to go. I have these Yveltal almost ready to go.
Yeah.
I don't care that my Lugia has a little bit of damage on it, quite a lot of damage on it, because I have other threats on my board and you don't. And I think that's a really important stance that Milos has gone and presented to Hermione.
Yeah, it's a really interesting scenario because we did see Hermione shuffle in the with the Ordinary Rod with the Luminion, which could be used to grab the boss's orders to KO the Yveltal and or the Archeops. But then that's going to be a 2-prize Pokemon that Charizard could KO as well. Yeah, that's a lot of energy on that Yveltal, which means they can swing next turn. And we just see a Tempest Dive. Obviously 80 less damage, but there's 2 powerful energies. I'll let them do the maths on that one.
Yeah. So the Lugia
coming out 180 damage. I make that. See if I'm right. Hey, I was right. Let's go.
Amazing. Lugia doesn't look like it's going to survive for much longer, but it doesn't need to. It's got so many friends on the bench.
Here we see the Temple of Sinnoh plus Moisture Star turn, basically removing all that damage. But I do believe that's going to be a KO, but that's going to force Milos now to, so he can't just respond with the Yveltal. Has to get rid of the stadium. Does have a few outs though, Lost Vacuum and or Ponker, but you have to imagine if he has promoted the Yveltal, he probably has the out. Can he do it?
Milos has a really large hand. Hopefully he's got something. He's going for the Primal Turbo, which fills me with a bit of confidence here. Is this the turn? Is
this the turn that's going to make Milos a regional champion? You have to imagine that here, if he is Primal Turboing to an active Yveltal. Is it going to be to active Yveltal, actually?
I don't know.
It's soaking me out there a little bit there.
Is it going to Charizard?
It's going to Charizard. Interesting. What's going on here then? What's going on here?
Oh, I just don't know. They might not have the out. And like we said earlier, maybe this is the effect of having so many supporters discarded early game.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see what Milos actually plays this turn out here. Probably doesn't have the stadium out, actually.
Maybe not. There's not a whole lot of ways to search it in their deck. They may have already gone past the Skylar. I don't remember if they've played that in this game yet. So it's possibly a no, but the attaching for turn. Okay. That's so getting a
choice belt.
Archeops in the discard pile from the energy. Have they got
it? And a research. Wow, okay.
Oh, and so this could be it if they draw into an out to that.
Did they? There's a quick ball. Is Ponkaboo in the deck? Is Ponkaboo in the deck? I mean, it must be. It's not prize. Pumpkin Kit. There we go. Milos is our 2023 regional champion here.
2-0.
Wow, here in Bochum, big congratulations there. Milos, our regional champion, first time regional champion. Love to see it.
Oh my goodness, added to the long list of Bochum champions that we've got. Oh, that was just an incredible, incredible match. We didn't see the Viker Vault at all, but it wasn't needed in this matchup. But it did guide them to many a victory throughout this competition, I'm sure.
No, 100%, and big congratulations there to Mil. He must be on top of the world right now. Here we can hear the crowd cheering and clapping him on. Love to see it. Played it really well, I believe, because some of those turns wasn't optimal. Really forced him down an interesting gameplay line, but I feel as if he navigated it perfectly. Used Amazing Rare Raquel when needed, used digging when necessary, and attaching those energies there with that Primal Turbo really well, actually. So that means there was more outs to the Punkaboo on the flip side of the research that he had, and it worked out personally. Well, big congratulations to him.
He did such a fantastic job the entire time he was here. We managed to have him on stream twice, and I got to interview him. So if you haven't watched that after the ceremony, please pop back and watch another one of their fantastic games. They just have such a fantastic aura about them. They are such a lovely person. Couldn't be more thrilled.
And there he is, dancing, baby. That is our Bochum 2023 regional champion, Milos. Big congratulations to him. But commiserations there to Hermione. Played it really well, I believe, as well. I think just a little bit unfortunate. That game 2 opening hand was a bit dire and really forced him again into some suboptimal lines. And unfortunately just wasn't able to win that last one. But second place at a regional, still plenty of CP and prize money as well, so you can't be too sad.
No, I would be super proud if I were either of them, and they should both just take this home and celebrate. Honestly, they've both done fantastic. It was fantastic to see everyone here today, but hey, I think that is it for us, I'm afraid. So we will have to say goodbye, Ferry, for now. We're going to head over to the winners' ceremony. Hey there, trainers. We're going to have a little look at the meta. We've seen so many interesting decks throughout the weekend, so many fantastic creations, and one of them has led us to a victor. And it's been so fascinating to see all of that unfold. We've been able to feature so many of these. Honestly, the meta has been growing and growing throughout this format. Although we have some of the biggest cards open to us at the moment, we have such a broad format. Anything from Sword and Shield base set onwards is currently legal, so we're able to utilize all of those cards, and they have been coming in useful. Lugia itself utilizing so many things from really early sets like those powerful energy. Let's have a look at this pie chart breakdown. Whoa, we've got a huge day 2 Lugia V-Star Archeops percentage at 30.26%. That will probably include our victors deck list, even though they had that spicy Viker Vault control element to it. In second place, we go down to Lost Box. This will be all of the single prize decks in their glory. I'm sure they'll all be slightly different, but 19.74% of our meta was eaten up by that. Next, we had Mew VMAX, an ever so popular deck. Feels like the deck that's never really going to go out of the meta. It's one of those that will just keep chugging. I like to call it the Pika-ROM of the format, where it just keeps coming back with more and keeps showing us why it's a force to be reckoned with. And I don't think that changes even post-rotation. It's still showing really well in Japan this weekend too, and I think it's just going to continue to be a powerhouse of our everlasting format. Vikavolt V, a nice control element here. So we hit our first control style deck, but also providing weakness to our top, obviously our Lugia V-Stars. If they can't counter that, it can spell doom. Both that and Gudra sitting at 9.21%. So really interesting that we saw only a deck just below 10% in the finals. Just that blows my mind. It's so awesome to see that they were able to bring a deck that was not fantastically represented numerically in day 2 to the finals. Then we got Regibox, our second single prize-esque deck. Obviously Lost Box has some V's in sometimes, but Regibox is the first pure single prize deck that we're looking at. It has a meta share of 3.95% in day 2. Regibox is and has been featured across the weekend really heavily. It's such a popular deck. Even our own David picked it up and rode it into day 2, not having played the deck much at all before themselves. They picked it up, popped it in, and away they went. I think one of the most interesting things that I find on this chart, though, is Galarian Wheezing. We unfortunately didn't get to see one on stream this weekend, but we did. It did pop up in the standings at 2.63%. of decks being Galarian Wheezing. So just being able to shut off any other Pokemon's abilities is clearly really crucial. Lots of the top meta decks really rely on abilities to do anything at all. And without those abilities, they just kind of get shut down, unfortunately. So that was a really interesting one that unfortunately we didn't get to feature. But don't forget when you're deck building at home that it's an option. All of these decks are still going to be really relevant for time to come. They change a little bit post-rotation. But honestly, they just will keep chugging for now. But I tell you what, for now, trainers, it's time. We're going to head over to Shay at the winner's ceremony. Please welcome him. We'll see you in a minute. Let's go.
Right then, so after a long weekend of Pokemon in this big packed venue, over 800 Masters, it's all wrapped up here now. We just saw our final, and let's give a big round of applause to our finalist, Hermione. Well done, well done, well done. So yeah, after that big long weekend, we do have a regional champion here, played really well and introduced some spice to the Lugia list, but I don't think we've seen. And let's get another big round of applause for our new Bochum regional champion, Milosk. Yeah. Yeah, baby. Okay, so Milos, before you run away, I know you're excited, but I want to pick your brains a little bit. You are now a regional champion. How does that feel?
Nice.
No. Cool, calm, and collected. I love to see it. Talk to me a little bit about your list. What made you come on to Vikavolt?
Vikavolt made me Lost Box matchup a bit better, because I can knock out Cramorant with Vikavolt and Zapdos, and then my opponent doesn't have anything to knock me out, so I have much time to use Vikavolt again, to use Vikavolt on Manaphy and then Raikou, or just use Stoutland, so it gives me much time and prizes.
Time and prizes, love to see it. What do you think, how do you feel now being able to go back to all your friends back home and be in the group chat and say, I'm a regional champion? Was that your goal before you entered this event?
I mean, my friend Mateusz Raszkiewicz is champion too, so I just had to win it.
He must be feeling a bit sore, and I'm sure he could say, I'm the only regional champion in the group, but now you could be like, nah, not today, mate. Now there's two of us, baby. Well done, very proud. How are you feeling?
Nice.
Nice. Big congratulations. One more round of applause. Right then, so I think that's going to wrap up our Bochum Regional 2023 coverage. Big thank you to everyone watching. We couldn't do it without you. Big thank you to all our players who turned up. We can't play without them. Massive thank you to all the judges and staff and all the production crew as well. You guys don't see them, but over there's so many people who work really hard to bring us this stream coverage. So big thank you to everyone, and tune into our next regionals really soon.